I bet when you clicked on this video, you might have thought, yes, wanting peace at all costs. That sounds like, things that people say in liberation or enlightenment teachings. This at all costs, peace at all costs, freedom at all costs. But that's not what I mean by that. It's easy to see, let's say a person is very outspoken, verbal, boisterous, overtly angry, easily triggered, wears their emotion on their sleeves, shares their emotions, tells you how messed up they are, or whatever it is. It's clear that you look at that person and you go, okay, I can see why they're interested in awakening. I can see the transformation that needs to happen there. There's no peace in that person's life. It's an obvious ego pattern. It's an obvious set of ego patterns when it shows up like that. And then someone right next to them doesn't say much. Looks for all intents and purposes to be at peace. Doesn't particularly rock the boat by saying anything controversial or that might bring conflict. Rather friendly, peaceful, quiet, good listener. That person may seem like, well, they may not need this kind of work or something like that. That's not maybe an obvious ego pattern. And I'm here to tell you it is. And don't be fooled. Here's where we get fooled is when it's going on for us. So you might go to like sad songs and different retreats, and you can kind of see that one person over there who's just a little too peaceful and a little too nice. It's like, that doesn't feel real. You might get a sense of that when you're at situations like this, or when it's in other people. But what I see continuously in sessions is that people don't recognize it in themselves. So, for example, on the Enneagram, if you're a 9, or if you have characteristics of a 9 peacemaker ego, which is one that desires peace at all costs, meaning if that means repressing anger or repressing viewpoint, repressing your voice, repressing anything in order to be at peace, that ego will do that. So it's a particular kind of ego structure that's not easy to spot because it looks like real peace. It looks like almost like, oh, that person's awakened. So many times in sessions, people come to me and they tell me that they're a 9 on the Enneagram, or they have characteristics of peacemaking, and it's not long after that they'll tell me, I don't know about this work because it's like everything seems to be fine in my life. My wife and I are getting along fine. I don't understand I don't understand why go deeper. Like, why bring up inquiries around anger, repression, or not being able to speak? And clearly that's the ego resisting the process in order to protect itself from complete annihilation. Because, again, this is an ego structure that is hard to see, especially when it is your ego structure. I'm not saying that being nice or being at peace is always ego. I'm not saying that. In fact, if I'm nice, if it's authentic, if it's not like I'm nice to you, but behind the scenes I'm cursing you and thinking you're a piece of shit and repressing anger in order to be nice to you, or stifling my viewpoint in order to people please, all of which would be ego nice. If there's nice that's authentic, that doesn't have any of that, it's just nice, just coming up as nice, then that's different. So I'm not beating up nice. I'm not even beating up peace. I'm trying to point to when those things show up, but it's not authentic. And that becomes like an ego structure. The problem with that is that as long as everything is pretty much in harmony in your life, like if there's no trigger right now, then it's easy for that ego to hide in that peace. Because it's almost like, well, the trigger is the thing that's showing me what's the point here? Is the trigger shows me that I have something to look at, or that I believe something, but the silence doesn't. The peace doesn't. The this desire for not saying anything doesn't seem to point to a trigger. You see where the deception is, the self-deception. So a 9 or a peacemaker might, again, look for those things that are non-peaceful triggers and say, that's where I have to do the work. And then as soon as that calms down and there's a sense that everybody's pretty much getting along and nobody's upset, going right into like a sleep from there. Sleep meaning asleep in your own ego pattern, not recognizing that desire for to keep things at peace and for quietness is your ego. This is a hard pill to swallow. I couldn't swallow it for so many years because the peacemaking really served me well. Got me a lot of love, or so the mind thought. Got rewarded, lots of compliments. You're a good listener. You're a great mediator. All the while, that was a structure, you see, a structure that is not unlike the structure of the person who's like really angry all the time or really triggered. It's just that the conditioning in the other person shows up loudly, shows up like, oh, they're just out of control, they're hurting, they're in pain, they're angry. And then here's the peacemaking ego over here, quiet, not reacting, smiling. You see the problem? They are both ego patterns, but the one that's peaceful is hard to see. And so many people are 9s on the Enneagram that come to enlightenment. They do, by the masses, they come. There's almost always a disproportionate number of 9s in my groups, for example, or in my training. So they know they're suffering. But then they want to get under it often. They want to see through it. But it's very hard to do when your ego pattern is tailored this way. It's hard. Because again, remember, this is the one thing, if you take anything else from this video, if you're a peacemaker, take this. When things are harmonious and nobody's in conflict, it doesn't mean you're not operating from ego. That's not what that means. It just means that there's harmony, there's no conflict right now, and you're feeling comfortable in that. For 9s to transform, really with all the types, they have to jump out of their comfort zone. Like you have to come face to face with the stuff that really scares you. And what scares a 9 is speaking up, being the one who gets the attention in the room by speaking up sometimes. You have to put yourself in that or you're never going to feel the pain that you would feel through that. But the conditioning stops you from doing it. So there's inquiry to be done. But anyway, speaking up is something that would indicate that a 9 has gotten out of their comfort zone and has moved through the conditioning. If I see a 9 who doesn't have a problem setting a boundary, saying no to people, speaking up, even if the person sounds louder, that's the thing. Because people could look at that and go, well, that ego's out of control, or that ego's got a lot to say. He must really be asleep. Not knowing that that particular person may have done a lot of deep work to come out of the quiet ego. The quiet, people-pleasing, I don't want to create any conflict. I want everybody to love me and think I'm good enough, so I'm just going to stay quiet, that ego. That was the shell from which this transformation can happen for people, where now the 9 that was previously shut down like this might have a lot to say. Might actually be authentic by speaking their position, by setting a boundary. That's another thing. I'm watching 9 set boundaries in their life for the first time. Saying no to people. No! You can't say that. Don't say that. Don't do that. Don't come back over here if you're going to do that. And it's so empowering for them, and they're stepping out of their ego shell. They're waking up out of it, and then other people look at them and go, this guy's really going off on his ego over here, setting boundaries and shit. Just, we do not understand yet that we each have a different flavor of ego, or if we do, we still project it on each other. Instead of letting everybody have their own experience and recognize that egos take all these different shapes and forms. And one doesn't look like the other. session sometimes when a nine says to me, there's not much going on. I just don't feel like, maybe I'm just kind of clear of a lot of that stuff. And I'm thinking, mm-hmm. What you're really saying is your husband's not mad at you today, and your children aren't coming at you, and the world doesn't have any major conflicts in it that are upsetting you, and that's what you're saying is clarity. So what I'll say is just rest as awareness, and I want you to bring your husband up, and then just say, I can say and do what I want to my husband. I can say whatever I want and do whatever I want. No. There's your conditioning. Or I can speak up and express myself fully to these people. No. And then at the same time, you're saying that your conditioning isn't active, that you're in clarity. It's just because your ego is quiet. Your ego is a quiet structure. Quiet. Repressed. Repressed. I feel like sometimes if I could just speak through the camera at those of you who are on that side of the fence, not that there's really a fence, just speaking here, if I can speak to you directly and say, despite all of your filter there that tells you that you're, if things are going okay in your life, if nobody's in conflict, that's clarity. I'm speaking to something prior to that knows better, that knows that's a bunch of shit, and that knows, and I don't mean that in a derogatory way, I mean that we should all own up to this shit. Each of us. Not just you, us, everybody. Owning up to my shit is part of the game. But come on, it's like I want to speak to you beyond your conditioning and speak to you in a way that you can hear. Is that freedom isn't about simply people being peaceful, liking you, or not being in conflict. You know this. You know that transformation for you is about speaking up and not remaining silent, not repressing anger. How much have you had to repress? How much have you had to repress in order to exist on this earth? In some ways, it would be like me speaking to my own shadow, because this is the Scott that showed up. If I could send a message back to that Scott and say, listen, there's a bunch of shit you can't see, dude. Are you ready to wake up from that? It's really hard to hear it in that place because there's a lot of utility, a lot of benefit, and a lot of payoff for this kind of ego. So when you go stirring things up in that ego structure, obviously it's like, I'm just going to shut you out. I just shut people out. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm at peace over here. Shut them out. Or, dismiss what they're saying. And dismiss what I'm saying here. As a way to protect yourself and stay in that structure. If you don't believe me, just test out some of the inquiries that I'm playing around with right now. If you're a peacemaker, try, if you're so free in your peace, try this. I can be myself fully in front of everyone, including speaking and doing whatever I want. You should feel that. You should feel it. Like a no. Right? I can be myself fully and say and do what I want. No. So that's what I'm saying, that right there. If you don't catch on to things like that, you could be easily fooled into thinking that your peaceful ego is somehow clear, or that that's awakening or something. And maybe there is an element of recognizing awareness in there, which is what makes it a little tricky and what allows us to hide even more. So the peaceful ego is this thought-based self, thoughts, feelings, sensations that are trying to protect against conflict, right? And then the awareness starts to be realized, and the awareness has, you could say, an element of peace there, the peace that passes all understanding. But it's not like the peace of ego. It's the peace of presence. And as that peace of presence shows up, it can further kind of reinforce, well, let's just push some of these things down. Keep some of these things down. Like, since there's this peace that passes all understanding, Why speak up? Why set a boundary? You can see how, can you hear how I'm talking? To see how you could hide in that so easily. That's what I did. So if you think that I'm pointing the finger at you, if you're watching this and you think Scott's being a little butthole today, no, I'm speaking because I know this directly. And I know that if I speak this directly about it, there'll be some people out there that'll go, yes, I know. So what is one to do? Let me give you some suggestions. Number one, be careful with the non-dual teachings. You didn't know I was going to come out with that, did you? Use them. They're wonderful to the extent that they point directly to presence and they help you to wake up to that. Be careful to the extent that you start interpreting them as in some way helping your ego hide enmeshed in that awareness. So where you do not challenge the conditioning that wants to hide in there, the conditioning that wants peace at the expense of authenticity, the one that wants to avoid conflict. Be careful when you bring that awareness, you start to recognize that. Don't let that shut out these strands of conditioning, these stories, because they're already unconscious. It's not something that we're fully aware of nines, our deep-seated need for peace at all costs, at the expense of authenticity. We're not aware of that. So being not aware of it, it's already unconscious. It's already stored in our bodies. Come to the non-dual teachings, they say rest is awareness, but that's still stored in our body. That's still our conditioning. But the awareness is then so peaceful and so freeing, the desire to do that might not be there anymore. But just wait around, because it's all going to come up eventually. It's all going to come up as you live as awareness and just walking around the earth, living in that recognition and still seeing the old patterns. Like not being able to leave a job because you don't want to speak up and say something. Not want to go to a boss and say, I don't like the way things are done here. Not going to a partner and saying, this is not okay. What you're doing, what we're doing is not okay. Setting a boundary on someone who's aggressive with you. You're going to have to deal with all these things. Your conditioning is still there under and within that awareness recognition. So just watch. But what I'm saying now is you don't have to wait. You don't have to wake up and then recognize that that's all there. You can start now inquiring along with your awareness practices. Like keep the awareness practice in, but bring in these inquiries like, I'm not afraid of conflict. Look at people in your awareness when you say that. I'm not afraid of conflict, and witness your conditioning. Or I can say and do whatever I want. Witness the objections. I don't need to be at peace. Witness the objections. I can say that having sat with all that and worked through a lot of the repression of these things, like repressing anger, repressing some viewpoint, repressing different things, and then working through that and having those repressions uplifted, that peace feels different now. Peace was, before, it was somewhat dependent on the circumstances being peaceful. Still somewhat dependent. Now it isn't. It's a peace with what is. It's like being okay with whatever comes up, including anger. Can I be at peace with that? Can I be okay with that? Can I be okay with my voice saying, setting a boundary? Like being at peace with that. Not just being at peace and shut down. That's that peacemaker ego. But being okay with the explosions too. So the peace is realized as everything is allowed and things are not repressed and everything's allowed to come and go. That's a deeper peace than I need to keep some of these things down. I need to keep myself at bay and I don't need to express this so that I can be at peace. That's the difference. What makes it hard is that the peacemaker ego, what it does is it conditions the people around it to believe that that's who you are. So you grow up with parents or siblings, or you get married and you have a family, and everyone sees you as a peaceful person, as a peaceful ego. So then if you come to this work where we're saying stir things up and realize that's not what you are, there could be an extra desire not to do that, because everybody thinks it'd be so disruptive. The mind says it's like they wouldn't even know how to take me anymore. They think that I'm one thing, but now I'm showing them that I'm not that. But yet they've come to love the peaceful one. That's who they became friends with. That's who she married. And that's where utility comes in, and that's where you have to take that step off the cliff, where you can't. Realization cannot be about being safe and keeping friends, and it can't be. It really can't be in the end. In the end, it has to be about authenticity, or it's just going to feel like not fully baked for you. The areas where you're not authentic will gnaw at you if you're listening. And it will wake you up to free falling, to jumping off the cliff on these areas that feel like it's too scary. Like, what would they all think? Like, would they even like me anymore? That kind of thinking has to be inquired into, or you'll stay in your comfort zone, stay in your stuckness. Some of the people that are most well-adjusted and most embodied that I know personally, have the deepest clarity, are people who've literally killed everyone in their life in their head and inquiry. They're not afraid to go to those places. They've done all those things. They may have been at one time really interested in only peace as an ego, but they see through going to all the violent places, self-hatred, anger, repression, violent tendencies that they have, seeing it all play out in awareness. You can feel that they're more embodied. You can feel when you're around them that they're more embodied. They say that behind every peacemaker, within every peacemaker, is a homicidal maniac. It's kind of a joke. Or is it? What are you holding down? What are you repressing in order to show up as a peaceful person in this earth? That's the question. And what I found is it goes all the way to self-hatred. In some cases, all the way to rage. All the way to a deep sense of being unworthy or unlovable at the core of all that peacemaking. So when I see those who've had the peacemaker tendency, when I see them inquiring into, I hate myself, or I hate people, or I'm pissed off that I know, that's real transformation there. But if I see people playing it safe, then I know where that goes. Not very deep. Not very deep. Playing it safe would be the kind of thing where it's like, my circumstances are doing okay. Me and my wife are not arguing. There's really not anything to look at. That's what I mean by complacency. Because in the quietness of that rest, of that comfort, that nobody's in conflict, that's exactly what the ego is in that situation. That is your ego. The ego that is addicted to that, frankly. If you don't believe me, again, just watch what happens when conflict does happen. When conflict happens, your entire world feels shattered. You can even shake. Like, have you ever done that before? Someone comes at you in conflict, and you think life is so peaceful. It's like everything's going really well. And then an email comes across from somebody ranting at you, and you're not able, I'm pissed off, like I'm scared, I gotta calm down before I can't speak to the person. That right there, if you pay attention, is exactly what I'm talking about. All the things you're holding back, the tremendous storm that you're holding back, all in the name of being at peace. And it's showing itself to you in those moments when you cower away from someone who isn't even physically threatening you, just maybe barraging you verbally or coming at you, cowering away, retreating back to find some peace somewhere, right? Don't face this issue, right? Watch your hands shaking as you start to type your emails back to people who are in conflict. You listen to your voice. Watch your voice shut down. You want to say something, it's like, I can't say anything. This is everything that you've had to do in order to be at peace. This is how you've had to suffer. And if you're like me, if you keep going and you just disregard this message of Scott Killaby's 2021, then you might have to deal with what Scott Killaby had to deal with in 2017, which is a lifetime of not really dealing with this, and then serious chronic pain, all held in from this stuff that would not be allowed. And that's where it gets physical, and that's where it gets serious. And then it's not even a matter of, do I feel like inquiring? Because once I saw that was happening, all the repression in order to be a peacemaker ego was held in that one area, and how incredibly painful it was. The only thing that I wanted to do was inquire. It was a matter of survival at that point. Inquiring into these things, even just a little bit each day, took a little bit of the pain away. It was literally managing the pain to do deconstructive inquiry. And then as I kept going and kept going and kept seeing all this stuff, pain went away. Now you can be the sacrificial lamb if you want, like I did. You don't have to be, though. Someone said to me, before all that happened, they said that to me. This lady who purported to be a psychic, she said, Scott, you don't have to be the sacrificial lamb. But yeah, I had to. I took it that far. I literally didn't go into this and was in incredible pain to the point of suicidal ideation, so much repression from peacemaker ego, that I literally sacrificed myself to come out and show you, okay guys, here's what happens. If you don't deal with it, this is what can happen. If you still care what other people think, that's an indicator. Do you still care what other people think? Does that take up space in your head? Because that's right along with peacemaking. Because it's not just we look at people and we attribute to them what they think about us, as long as we think that they think okay thoughts about us, and we're fine. But the moment we think they're thinking something else, it activates that ego underneath. So how much time is spent in your head thinking about how other people think about you? That's an indicator. So somebody's asking how to do inquiry. So I have been sharing that through the talk, but start with, what is a peacemaker ego? It's literally that. Your entire strategy is that. So start breaking out of that by questioning that. Again, pulling out people and saying, I don't mind being in conflict, and stay with that inquiry. Observe everything that comes up, one thought at a time. You don't have to go deeply into the body at first, just stay with the thoughts. Keep witnessing, repeat. And then come to other ones, like put people in front of you and say, I can say and do what I want. Now the point is not that you can just literally go say and do what you want, like murder people or whatever, but it's like that breaks you out of that conditioning that is shut down, that's trying to people please and placate and agree all the time. Because if you say what you want and do what you want, it's not about agreement anymore. You're not looking for agreement. You're just being authentic. So I can say and do what I want. Watch the objections. Just keep watching, repeat. There's going to be a lot there. Anger repression. Many people who are peacemakers, they just don't show anger. It's there, but they have difficulty accessing it and certainly expressing it. So looking at people in your awareness, mom, dad, whoever else, I could feel and express anger directly to them. No. See, it comes up. Those are just some good inquiries to get started. But here's the thing you have to know. Once you get started, it's like going down a tunnel. In a sense, it's like, okay, I can say and do what I want. No. And you know that this is a long story. You know that there's a lot of conditioning on this. It's like a tunnel of thoughts that are going to keep telling you, no, you can't, because they've been trying to protect you all your life. So if you go halfway down the tunnel and you decide not to go further and to keep witnessing, find out why. It will not be necessarily for the reason that your mind says. Your mind might say things like, this could go on forever. What's the point of it? First of all, who cares if it goes on forever? It's still your conditioning. To be awake to your conditioning is the point. To be awake to what is. And of course it helps, because you're waking up to your conditioning. You're waking to see you're not these thoughts. That's the transformation. So the mind is making up things here. And down deep, you know that there's benefit in going all the way through something. So if you stop halfway, think about it a different way. Could it be that you're getting something out of these stories? Like, so go into reverse utility inquiry. What do I get out of believing I can't say and do what I want? What do I get out of believing I can't say and do what I want? Oh, I stay quiet. People like me. I stay safe. I protect myself here. I get approval. I get love. All these things. Now turn and witness them. What do I get out of believing I can't say and do what I want? And I start seeing that. That's how I stay safe. Falling away to awareness. Rest is awareness. I get love this way by staying quiet. Or just see the thought. Rest as the awareness that remains. Utility is what stops people, but they don't know it. Utility is, I'm actually getting something from this. Like, I've been rewarded for this. I've been able to protect myself by not speaking up. I've been able to stay safe. Many people love me because in a group of people, I'll just be quiet and listen. So I'm getting everything from it. So you can see why the real reason you don't want to go down the tunnel has nothing to do with how long it's going to take or if this is going to work. The real reason is that you don't want to let go of something that's given you such benefit. You don't listen to the meaning of thought. Someone just asked it. You don't go into the meaning of each thought and pontificate or ruminate. You observe from quiet, still awareness, the thoughts coming and going. No analysis, no judgment. Just seeing the thought itself. Bringing it, making it an object in awareness and observing it. And feeling whatever is with it. Not being dissociated from the body, feeling whatever's with it is the way. Here's a good question. It's a long one, so I assume it's a good one. Lyndon asks, what? Oh, I've lost it. Let me see if I can find these. Don't know that I can find. Maybe this is it. Yes, here we go. While I was getting my hair done, I got a text that a friend's family member died and my hair color didn't turn out. Okay, hold on, I lost it again. And my hair color didn't turn on point. I'm just experiencing feeling run down from disappointment. Well, I don't know if that ties into peacemaking. There's an inquiry for you. I love this new color of my hair. Unless you can do something about it, be with what is. Be okay with it. Just look at the viewpoints. I hate my hair. I'm ugly. Nobody's going to like me. Whatever. Most of this work is just about observing directly the thoughts that are already there, that are unconscious. These thoughts, like how you feel. It's like I feel feelings over it. Like I don't like my hair. I'm angry or whatever. It's all about seeing the thoughts that go with that. So the inquiries that reverse your beliefs, like if you hate your hair, just saying, I love my hair, is a way of bringing up those thoughts that are unconsciously connected to the feeling, and you just let them be there, and then go change your hair color whenever you can. Let's see if there's any other questions here. I'm trying to stick on the topic, though. Yeah, I think that's it. All right, guys. Here's a couple more for you. I'm okay if nobody likes me. or nobody loves me. Because often at the core, not always, at the core of a peacemaking ego is like a sense of being fundamentally unlikable or unlovable. And this is why making peace and agreeing is so seductive to that type, because in having agreement with people and pleasing them, it's like they like you, or they think you're worthy, or that you're lovable. So that's a strong addiction. So to unhook yourself from using that so much, like a drug, I don't care if anybody likes or loves me. Whew. Hello. What's coming up from that? The key is just to rest with it if you can, one thing at a time. See your conditioning. It's right there. I don't care if anyone likes or loves me. That would be a very, very powerful inquiry that would catch a lot of stuff. Repressing anger, repressing viewpoints, all to get liked and loved by others. Yeah, the answers, the thoughts come up and just they appear naturally just from asking the inquiry. Someone said that. Do they just appear? Yeah, reverse inquiry and you'll see it. And just stay awake to them, because they like to go quiet too. It's like it'll show you a few and then it'll go quiet and you'll think, oh, awareness, which is true, that's awareness. But stuff hides. So as you just pick that back up, it'll show it to you again, arising and falling in awareness. Until at some point it's a dead inquiry. It's like, I don't believe that anymore. And my body doesn't hold that. And then you won't do that inquiry again because it's dead. Let me see. So to Sinead, I've just mentioned several reverse inquiries that you can try if you want to rewind to the beginning when I post this. And then someone is asking, Sinead's asking, I have tightness, pulse feeling between my eyes. Uh-oh, can't keep this up, hold on. Okay. Been following your videos or inquiries, but now I'm at a point where no images are coming up. Good, look for words, because words are the programming. The words are the meaning. So feeling into that area, ask who or what is it about. See something or someone come up. The something will be like words or something, like some meaning, or the something will be a person. In any event, just ask, what am I believing about this person or this thing? What is the belief that seems relevant here? And something will come up in words, like I am this, or they are that, or something. Once you get that, reverse that. So let me show you what I mean. Like, let's say I've been inquiring in with this sensation, and maybe I got some images earlier on in inquiry, but now it's rather quiet. And so that's where it gets really, really challenging, because it can seem like it's just a sensation then, and it's not. But if you can find out the words that feel directly connected to it just by asking, what does this mean? And then reverse it. So let's say I've seen through a lot of images, but then there's no images. But I ask, who or what is this about? And let's say the word dad comes up. Dad. Okay, let's bring dad up. Feeling into the sensation, what am I believing in words about dad? He was disappointed in me. Okay, chances are there's a set of thoughts right after that, and all of these thoughts are partly, among other things, are holding us together. Reverse it. Dad was never disappointed in me. Yes, he was. You were going to see some words come up. Stay within word image. Stay and allow each one. By reversing what you mind out of there, you probably have more material there. Just remember, it's unconscious. This is why these sensations are so persistent. The person who asked this question, living example of things that I see every day, all day with people who've gone to the non-dual teachings and to some degree have recognized awareness, but the body keeps the score. So learning how to do this, I've done a deep somatic work video. Go watch that, deep somatic work. And anything with the word somatic in it, usually I'm doing some example of this kind of deep mining. But essentially, whatever you find out in words that is associated with this, any words, go reverse them. Even if you've seen other words come through, and you just witnessed them and they left. Sometimes words are really important. There's more to them. Reverse them. So, I'm not safe comes up. Instead of just witnessing that, what you can do, reverse it. I'm totally safe everywhere, all the time. No. More unconscious thoughts. Velcro to the sensation. Witness through all the thoughts so that the Velcro can loosen. This is not a magic pill. This is not going to happen overnight. The dissolution of this sensation is not going to happen overnight. You may stumble upon an inquiry that gets to the root of it, and a lot of it goes, or maybe all of it. But this work happens in an incremental of discovering the unconscious thoughts and witnessing those so that over time this thing can loosen and dissolve and open. For some people it can happen quickly. Don't assume that though, because if you do, you might get frustrated. Just keep, if you still find something that feels relevant to this, words that feel connected to it, continue to do reverse inquiry on that. Just continue, because all of that is still connected to this. And if you don't see it, it's going to remain. That's the bad news. The good news is we have a key now, and I've given you tons of keys during this one. And there's more videos out there. Bye, guys.